You know the saying, money talks and
language
walks. Quoted again and again, this simple truth is catching up to folks in every industry, especially the entertainment industry, which we mostly talk about here. The art of making a great entertainment product is a difficult thing because it needs to be artistic to evoke emotion and make people care, but it's also a product and there's not going to be much of it if nobody buys tickets. Trouble is that sometimes the art sucks, which is what makes it a terrible product.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be when it fits a woman.
Yeah, that got laughed out of the building a few years ago, and it, along with a few of their own failures, finally convinced someone at Disney, accounting probably, to reverse course on the social justice stories. Except it was too late, and they were already tassels deep in projects cast in a similar mold.
I made a huge mistake.
They tried to delay them, hoping that the Bud Light backlash was just a temporary outlier. Then they tried to do a few tweaks and reshoots. Finally, they realized they just needed to go into the editing room with a hatchet and a chainsaw and a plasma torch.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
However, those trendy themes were the core of many projects, and after the post-vibe shift editing, the remaining husks that got released this year could only be called movies because they were shown in movie theaters. Really, they were Frankenfilms, cinematic homunculi that were vaguely film-shaped, but felt like they were made by somebody who's only ever read about movies.
It's alive! It's alive!
But that's because they were very literally stitched together from multiple versions of a project, minus the parts that the studio deemed rotten. Like, say, a family movie about an 11-year-old's queer identity that he explores alongside his vaguely phallic-shaped friend.
Now I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear what I clearly just heard.
No, you heard it right. And if you weren't one of the dozens of people who saw Elio several weeks ago, let me assure you, it is a complete mess from a structural standpoint. That's because the studio realized what a PR nightmare awaited them when they released a movie featuring, quote, a scene in the boy's bedroom with a poster suggesting a male crush, according to this Hollywood Reporter article that interviewed several members of Pixar staff who worked on the movie. Now, regardless of your personal feelings about any of these ideologies, would you bet your own money that such a story would do well with the general audience? Yeah, Twitter and Tumblr cowboys always know how to spend other people's money, regardless of the destruction, but Disney executives have a fiduciary duty to avoid that sort of thing. And this is where you need that balance between money and art, because one Pixar artist who worked on Elio was quoted as saying, "It was pretty clear through the production of the very first version of the film that studio leadership were constantly sanding down these moments in the film that alluded to Elio's sexuality of being queer."
I am not gay.
How did they not hear it when they said it out loud? Which moments got sanded down? Well, how about Elio making his own clothing from garbage and showing it off in a trashin' show, as the movie team referred to it, this all being in front of a hermit crab. You know, the animal that comes out of its shell when it feels safe. He was also wearing a pink tank top to go with his blue cape. Obvious imagery is one thing, but this is a giant, flashing neon arrow.
Look at my gay agenda!
But those stuffy executives decided to cut that for some crazy reason.
Remove the chick from it. Make it less gay.
However, once the coming-of-age story was gone, what was left? That artist who bemoaned the reduction of the 11-year-old sexuality summed it up nicely. Quote, suddenly you remove this big key piece, which is all about identity, and Elio just becomes about totally nothing. The Elio that is in theaters right now is far worse than Adrian's best version of the original. Hashtag release the Molina cut. Inquiring minds need to know. And make videos. It's accurate, though. This movie is about nothing. Now. After it was no longer an animated Call Me By Your Name, there was zero plot. And with the exception of Fantastic Four, every Disney release this year has felt the same way. Public opinion shifted, and Disney tried to erase the trendy ideologies, but they were so opaque and baked in, each production was left in shambles after they were excised and lost a ton of money anyway. You, however, can save some money. Come on. This gigantic human being is my 13-year-old son. I'm protecting his identity. Also, I'm just kind of getting a kick out of this. Now,
You're doing a great job, bud. Now, do you have any idea how much it costs to feed all of this? That's why I need something like Rocket Money to help manage my money and save more. Look, regardless of your situation or your goals, wasting money when you don't mean to is just dumb. Rocket Money is a simple tool to organize your spending, set intentional goals, and most importantly, cut accidental waste. For example, I discovered that I was accidentally paying for 2 HBO Max subscriptions, one directly through them, one through Google Play. Set change? Ad speak, Rocket Money says that people that use their premium features can save up to $740 a year. Look, what I know is that one catch is saving me $200, and you can download and try it for free. They can even cancel some subscriptions for you. Did you sign up for Walmart Plus to use self-scan one time and then forget to cancel? A few taps and now you're done with that. They are on it. One more. Back here, take control of your finances and stop spending accidentally. Use the link below or go to rocketmoney.com/GregOwen and get started for free. Thanks to Rocket Money for sponsoring, and thank you for not skipping the ad.
So what led to all of this investment and reversal? I'm only going to say one semi-nice thing today about Disney CEOs Bob Chapek and Bob Iger. I do believe that they thought they were doing their job. See, a good CEO always has to be on the lookout for the next big thing, anticipating it and then committing resources to take advantage. Almost a decade ago, Disney started to bet big on social politics. And it wasn't just a few made-up positions and a fancy statement of values that was buried in their website. They went all in, hiring creatives with little to no track record and giving them the keys to the magical kingdom and the power to tell their truths, believing that the public, and Larry Fink, would reward them handsomely for leading the charge and being on the right side of history.
Did that go the way you thought it was going to go? Nope.
I didn't say they were doing their jobs well. As is common with people whose bonus structure relies on this year's numbers, they were short-sighted and didn't see the fad for what it was. The novelty worked at first, but activists kind of don't know how to write well, and the audience stopped caring. Now, here we are in 2025 in the post-woke era with the last stringy vestiges of this ideology being rubbed onto the cultural carpet as Disney desperately tries to abort the rocket they strapped themselves to. As I've explained in the past, most of this is an interpretation of the moral worldview of socialists. Most famous is going to be Karl Marx, where the very existence of inequality is viewed as evil, not a result of incentives or preferences or like a challenge to be managed, inherently evil and needs to be eradicated. What we know is woke today is the application of that morality in the entertainment industry, mixed with some intersectional critical theory, to combat the inequality of representation. Sadly, for the folks deluding themselves with this mindset, the general audience isn't approaching every task with this same morality in mind, so recent stories completely lack connection, and many characters' ethics don't make sense. Like, when Jason Statham hunts down child traffickers, you don't need to be told why he's right. When Sam Wilson attacks John Walker, honestly, why is Sam being such a prick? Like, he's been a whiny teenager this entire show. It doesn't make sense.
Yet I'm still here. No super serum, no blonde hair or blue eyes.
Oh, that's right. Okay, the writer thinks everything's about race, so it does make sense then. See, Sam was fighting the evil of inequality of representation in casting, which was personified by Walker. You guys didn't get that?
Everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic, and you have to
do better, Senator.
Oh my God. I get it.
Everyone, including Sam, suddenly remembered that he was black in his show, but then they all forgot again by the time he got back in theaters with Brave New World for some reason. Accounting, probably. His friend Isaiah Bradley is back, the guy who drove a lot of the race story in the show.
They will never let a black man be Captain America.
Am I invisible and feeling strangely invisible?
Well, he tries to kill the president while under mind control, and I think we all know where this is going. Oh, didn't go there. That's weird, because this character had one defining trait, and it was, I'll never trust the racist states of America, but it's all gone now, as is Isaiah for most of the movie. Sam's assertion that he'll be Captain America in the name of the slaves is gone as well.
We built this country, bled for it. I'm not gonna let anybody tell me I can't fight for it.
So where the show took to calling Sam Black Falcon and had heavy race themes, now they're all gone.
Cut the race baiting! Make it less gay!
Coincidentally, the plot also makes about 0 sense. The pacing is bipolar. Multiple scenes are very clearly reshot without Anthony Mackie. They just use ADR in the back of somebody else's head.
Mind control. He created a technology that allowed him to control the minds of anyone he targeted.
Or he and Harrison Ford are in an obvious green screen room, even though one scene is just a meeting room. There's also no strong connection between Sam and new President Ross. There's no build up to him having a showdown with the president. The only reason they fight in the end at all is because Sam happened to be nearby. Likewise, Sam has no connection to the leader, Samuel Stearns, until the villain brainwashed his friend and is shooting at the president, but missing on purpose in order to... I'm honestly not sure what the ultimate plan is for this super genius. It doesn't matter anyway, because none of his plans even begin to succeed, even in small ways. The whole thing was a mess.
That's a lot of damage.
And we know that it was reworked over and over. Rumors were circulating that director Julius Ona was informally removed from the project at the end of last summer, and he didn't even oversee the reshoots, where an entirely new character with several scenes was added, that being played by Giancarlo Esposito. A different character, played by Seth Rollins, was trimmed out entirely. New writers also came aboard to assist Spellman. The production was a train wreck, and the final film empty and disjointed. Based on Spellman's writing in the show, the delays and rewrites, and the state of other delayed and rewritten movies, I'm estimating that Spellman was emboldened by Falcon and Winter Soldier and went full Tumblr mode in this script, baking race grievances into every scene. And by the time they realized it and gouged out the offending bits, there wasn't enough left to tack a cohesive story to, so they slapped in some reshoot Bondo and just hope for the best. But even if the changes had not happened, while the movie might have been more hilarious in a Velma kind of way, it still would have contained an empty Sam Wilson, because ever since his show, ever since being handed the shield, he hasn't had his own character. Like almost all stories about racism, post-Endgame appearances of Sam have been about other people, not him. With that core theme gone, we see how little there is to this character now. This is a constant pitfall with stories about groups that have been infantilized by social progressives. Sam doesn't get to change or grow. His show sees him end in the exact place he started. No, Sam's big realization is that the world needs to change. Everyone else needs to do better. Is it any wonder that a character like that makes for a boring story? Of course, it's a quarter-inch bit next to the industrial fracking that is Ironheart. Disney had this one on the shelf for years, hoping to pocket veto it or something, I guess, and I can see why. I made a video after the first 3 episodes, but I didn't bother to make another one because there simply was not much to say. Like, I didn't have any real angle beyond, it's bad, the end, until now. The second half is empty and pointless and doesn't answer any of its own questions or resolve most plot points. I was bored more than Lily Phillips. I'll go over a few examples here, but this show is so mangled and gutted that it's impossible to tell what the point was supposed to be. That's why it's hard to critique. With something like The Acolyte, you can see what the writer was trying to do and how terrible it turned out. That's why I used all of her interviews to make several hours on that crazy show. There's a playlist in the channel. But with Ironheart, there isn't even that much to go on. It's a woke golem, an amalgamated mass of random leftist buzzwords and talking points thrown together with all the precision of a parent whose child has informed them of a school craft project at 9 p.m. the night before it's due.
It's alive!
Examples, though. The villain's gang claims they're fighting back against the rich elites and gentrification in one episode, but that's never explored. The rich herbologist CEO obviously knows the gang leader, Parker, and expected him, but that's never pursued.
It's unimportant. It won't come up again.
The box check kids here have no depth and simply disperse later, adding nothing to the story. In my last video, some commenters were very upset that I referred to them as things, as though I could possibly objectify them harder than the script already did. But most of all, Riri's motivation took lessons from Bruce Lee as it shifts like water to fill whichever scene it happens to be in. This "because I can" phrase kept getting brought up like it was going somewhere of importance, but of course it did not. Hey, can I say something about that phrase? Yeah, can we do it at the end of the video though? No, that's fine. Did you do the pro move though? Oh, I knew I forgot something. Fine, just work it in. Tell them not to forget to hit the like button. Oh, hey, new mug alert. And you're like, what is that? Oh, it's just because you didn't see this. I love mugs with lids. That's why this one's gonna come in later this year.
I like mugs because they're very comfortable in your hand and they hold the hot things that you don't have to touch.
Meanwhile, back at the video.
Now that phrase originated with her stepdad Gary to refer to chasing his hobbies and interests because he enjoyed them. And it's hinted that his great interest in Iron Man led Riri to build her own suit. But then later, when she's finally forced to explain herself, the phrase means nothing. And she says she just needed the suit to protect her family from getting gunned down like Gary and her best friend Natalie. Rather than a suit, that needs her to be present, like why didn't she create some sort of personal protection device for them? That could be conveniently carried around like a wristband or something, that would like project some kind of defensive bubble that would stop bullets or something. Oh damn, she did exactly that in the first 5 minutes of the show. Okay, so then what big dreams did she need all the money for? No idea. The show contradicts itself this way constantly. When she finally meets the MCU version of Satan, he tells her all the Forbes 100 richest people work with him, plus a bunch of monarchs and popes. Now, we used to hate rich people, but not now, I guess, because she makes a literal deal with the devil to bring Natalie and Gary back from the dead.
Okay, that makes sense.
JK LOL, she forgot about Gary and only brought back her bestie.
Doesn't make any sense.
The show parodies itself. You can't make fun of it. Okay, let's say that I was gonna write a comedy bit for this video where I'm pretending to be producer Ryan Coogler. No, whoa, that's gonna get me in trouble. I was just thinking like audio. I meant music. All right, there we go, yeah. All right, now the audience knows. We're talking about black stuff. Okay, so in the bit, I would satirically say something extreme, like, I want this show to be written by a budding hip-hop artist who has almost no industry experience, but is famous for writing poetry against gentrification, but doesn't have to be against it romantically.
How oddly specific.
Yeah, that bit would not work, because that is exactly what happened in real life! Shanaka Hodge is 99% a slam poet and aspiring hip-hop artist, but I repeat myself, the other 1% is actual writing credits, and that's only because I rounded up so I could use whole numbers. She wrote 1 episode of Amazing Stories on Apple TV and co-wrote 1 episode of Snowpiercer and 1 episode of The Midnight Club. Naturally, this incredible resume caught the eye of folks at Marvel, and she was asked to write an entire show.
This is the girl.
You won't believe this, but it didn't work. Either because Hodge got brisket-fisted with the politics, or because she's simply an unskilled writer. Maybe both. The resulting machete edits in this show are ragged, and it genuinely feels like they were supposed to have hour-long episodes, or more than 6. Now, I could be reaching. What we saw was not the chronologically stitched together pieces that remained after the truly awful parts were sliced out. But that would leave the option that the show, as we saw it, is all these creatives are actually capable of. Not sure that's the better option. I did actually think of an angle for the show, though. I'm going to do a different video that will, in no small part, be a roast of the shills in my comments who attempted to defend this trash by trying to retcon other characters. They will be summarily mocked, as is only right. But they aren't the only ones to confuse their own fever dream hallucinations with what actually appeared in past movies. Our old friend Rachel Zegler also finally made it to theaters as Snow White this year, along with the 7 Uncanny Valley Nightmares and the 7 Hobohemians and the 7 different writers who tried to salvage this garbage. 3 years ago, we were all treated to this gem of an interview where Rachel condescendingly derided the original Snow White as being made 85 years ago, and evidently so, with an amount of smug self-certainty that would give Conor McGregor secondhand embarrassment.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
In various interviews, she suggested that this new Snow White would be a brave, fearless leader and wouldn't need some prince to come to her rescue like in the misogynistic past.
The age of men is over.
Counter to her assertions, however, there very much was a love story in the live action, though Jonathan here and his band of merry nobodies don't play much of a role, which added to the boring bloat of the movie. After that interview debacle, set photos leaked of the Hobohemians, which Disney tried to spin as just lighting stand-ins, but then confirmed, yeah, they're real. They also originally had little people playing the dwarves, but Peter Dinklage threw a fit, so they went back on it, likely subbing in the Portlandian players here. That, however, received its own backlash, so Disney then said, well, there are going to be magical creatures, just not dwarves. So which of the 3 or 4 versions of the movie did we get? Yes, I think. Sometimes Snow was a bossy leader who told the dwarves to clean up their act, but didn't want to help. I love when narcissists write a leader character and then show what they think that word means. Sometimes she was a strong, independent woman. Other times she was swooning for Jonathan. Other times the magical creatures seemed important, then the Hobohemians, then no one. Sometimes fair meant beautiful. Other times it meant just. This thing feels like a big piece of paper that was used for multiple rounds of Pictionary. It's one of the most schizophrenic movies you're likely to see, and that's because Disney kept trying to fix what they knew was going to be a disaster, but they kept getting the same type of people to fix it. It's been an awful year for multiple wings of the House of Mouse, and I don't have optimism for their future because those big bets on social politics came with a wave of new employees that don't seem to know or care what the audience wants. I mean, they know how to tell their truth, but that's not what people buy tickets for. Just as bad, the higher-ups clearly know something is wrong, which is why these movies bear the tooth marks of an editing shark attack, but they haven't yet shown that they remember how to do what is right. Fantastic Four is a perfect example. It's trying to follow a formula that should work, but no one working on it truly understood or felt the concepts that it was shooting for. Hey, did you say you want to take us out? I'm gonna do, oh God. Thank you very much. My turn. You seriously tried to do the elevator joke with our knees? Stupid. So listen, that Ironheart show was morally horrible, but for a minute, I really thought that stepdad Gary was gonna teach us something, but I will. When Riri was saying because I can, it was always like this cocky, selfish way, but Gary was using it in a genuinely self-confident way. He knows that he can because he has, and he likes the personal challenge of doing it again. You can too. Look, if you don't believe me because you don't have the confidence, that's just because you haven't been proving it to yourself. I want you to remember this very eloquent maxim. If you do stuff, then you will have done stuff. Then somebody asks you why you think you could do new stuff. You just look at all the stuff you've already done and say, because I can. And don't think that the stuff has to be productive or mastered. We're really bad about that, like with the side hustle stuff. Like, I keep this book around because I used it to learn C# a few years ago. I made some small programs, Unity games, probably junior dev level stuff. Never used it professionally. At one point, I solidly had a 6-year-old's grasp of the Russian language, have forgotten most of it. I don't know if this current project is going to work how I want it to, but part of it involves making electromagnets like this one. You might be thinking, I don't know how to do those things. Right, me either, until I did. I just learned about solenoids a few months ago. Guys, we are on the internet. All the information is here already. And I'm sharing these things specifically because they're not brag-worthy and did not result in direct monetizable skills, right? But programming helps with problem solving and systematic thinking. Language learning is great for abstract thinking and cultural learning. This solenoid project is great engineering practice. Develop an idea, take it to reality, test it, iterate on it. All of that is useful for other goals that you might have. Life is kind of like an engine builder game in that way. Look, don't waste your time worrying about representation or whatever new thing the news wants to scare you with. Just go do stuff. Nobody's gonna stop you. And after a while, you'll have your own pile of because I can proof and indirect skills and knowledge. You got this. See you next time.